I feel like it was one of those things to where, even though at age 30, it's like Mercedes still has like this fear of fully being a mom. I mean, you know, like what was it? Like we're on like the later half of the second season, and Tarricka is just now, spending, consecutive nights at Mercedes' home. So it's not like she's been the best example of a mom. Hey, what's going on, folks? Another episode of Just My Opinion. This is your boy Ryan, and this is Just My Opinion with Ryan. Appreciate you dropping by. We are going to be talking about P-Valley. After taking a week off, P-Valley returned, and you already know what to do when you see the pop-up. Man, listen, I thought this was another heavy episode. Not as heavy as the episode where Teak passed away or committed suicide, but still a heavy episode as well. Not as many storylines to follow. I think they really focus on like 3 storylines on this episode. So let's get into it. The episode opens up with like a beautiful montage of Ernestine singing when she owned the Pink, and just singing all the memories of parties and dances going by, and people passing, men passing women money who was flirting with them or whatever. Yeah, man, I thought it was a beautiful opening scene. And I'm sure some of y'all caught it, but I was kind of thrown back a little bit. Like, of course, we had Clifford as a baby or a toddler running around in this episode. And was anyone else taken aback? Even though it was, I guess, like a fantasy thing, was anyone else taken aback that the mother, even when he was 3 years old, called him Uncle Clifford? Not sure what that was about, but I peeped it, and I was just like, I had the Nick Young face. But I thought that was a beautiful way of opening up, and then it gets back to the present day, with Ernestine looking disheveled, and seeing an image of her daughter welcoming her to, just time to rest, have a drink with me, and Ernestine saying not yet. So just from that opening, the way the episode opened, man, you could tell it was going to be some heavy shit yet again, man. Katori Hall in the writing room, they're just amazing. If season 1 wasn't enough, season 2 definitely cranked it up this season. I swear. But so after the credits, we go ahead with we go ahead and see Autumn and Uncle Clifford have that meeting. Uncle Clifford is emotional. He clearly has sentimental ties and sentimental values for the Pink. And Autumn is still all about selling it. And I understood where Clifford was coming from at first. He was still very hesitant, stuff like that, or defiant about her selling it. They're bumping heads, but it's kind of funny. She mentioned how much the potential she was potentially able to make, $5 million. Clifford had to have some reservations. I totally get it. And matter of fact, she said, I don't even want the 5. I want 10 million. So I don't know, man, like sentimental value or not, man. 1/3 of 10 million is a lot of money, man. You're talking with a little over 3.3 million. Clifford might fold, I don't know, but I thought that was cool. Well, not cool. I just thought it was dope way to open it up. At least if you're gonna sell something, at least get some millions for it, I suppose. I really enjoyed once again, I guess the vulnerability that Katori Hall is really opening up when it comes to this show. Hey, man, as I said in previous episodes, man, look, if P-Valley is not for you, it's not for you. I completely understand if you feel uncomfortable watching certain, scenes while with it. I totally get it, man. But I applaud Katoria Hall just going with this, just me paraphrasing, just almost like, hey man, just live your truth, man. Just live your truth. We see, and with everything that was going on with Murda and Teak, Murda is now staying with Clifford, and just that whole dynamic, was interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, you see them. Well, first you see not Clifford. You see Murda taking care of Ernestine whenever Clifford's not in the house. Ernestine is of course, fond of Uncle Murda as well, in terms of, she thinks she's a good dude. I did think it was funny. She was like, asking him his name, and she was like, is LaMarcus? And he was like, what? Lower Murda. And she's like, oh, I love that better, baby. I'm sorry if I offended, Loretta Devine for that horrible impersonation. But nah, man, it was cool to see. So, apparently Uncle Murda has unofficially moved in, at least just till he gets his head right. And that was, once again, just the vulnerability between these two men was pretty interesting to see. It was dope to see. You see Uncle Clifford and Murda have like a real conversation. Like, Murda is like trying to find out, like, did you always feel like you were this way since you were a kid? Like what do you go by? Like, really trying to have that conversation about what Uncle Clifford, identifies himself as. I think that's a dope thing to have an open conversation about. It reminds me of, I don't watch the show, or I haven't watched it, but I've seen a clip of College Hill where Slim Thug is talking to oh my goodness, what is her name? Big Frida, talking to Big Frida on College Hill. It's like a College Hill celebrity version. And as gangster as Slim Thug's reputation was when he first came in the music industry, had a sit down with Big Frida and just was like, hey, what do you identify as? He wasn't trying to come off as offensive or anything like that. Just simply was asking, hey, what do you identify as? I just want to know how to address you, this and the third. And I felt like that was kind of very similar in what we saw with that conversation with Murda and Clifford. Murda was like, did you always know you were, gay? Like, what do you identify yourself as? What do I call you or address you? And I don't know, I felt like maybe Clifford slightly got offended, but he simply was like, I go by Uncle Clifford. You left it at that. And then of course, still going with the Murda and Clifford storyline within this episode. You see stuff like apparently, the clear age difference. Clifford almost was, concerned that Murda ain't even know who Cisco was. But you see Murda is finally feels comfortable enough at a place to where he can kind of let his hair down and be himself. He's dressing up in Uncle Clifford's leather pants and has a thong on over the pants, and they flirting around and stuff like that. He's dancing to the Cisco song. Once again, as far as this episode goes, I thought it was, yet again, another bold approach especially in these day and times, unfortunately, of Katoria Hall showing men being vulnerable with each other, especially men who are fond of each other. Once again, if it's not for you, hey, it's your opinion. I still definitely enjoy the show for what it is, man. And I think it's dope to see. So I like that storyline. Once again, I really felt like that episode was, at least that storyline was just highlighting men being vulnerable. And then there was before we go on to the next one, then there was definitely the conversation of, Uncle Murda saying something to the effect of how him and his boys knew that they can pass. Like they could pass as heterosexual in the public eye and not have to worry about any type, what type of hate and nastiness can just come from that. So very interesting conversation, man. And we also do see that Teak unfortunately didn't have any family. No one has claimed him at Wodie's funeral home yet. Wodie said he had to go ahead and put him in like a pauper's casket, in the meantime. And still, of course, that was a very traumatic and emotional thing that Murda witnessed. So I'm sure that's gonna, that type of PTSD is going to live on for a while. And we saw it, glimpses of that in this episode of how that just affected him for a while and how he was crying. So I feel like this, if you didn't like men being vulnerable in this episode, it's only going to get more vulnerable as I think the seasons or episodes progresses. I really feel like, Murda may just at some point open up to Clifford about his feelings and what really transpired the day he saw Teak kill himself. So anyway, back to the Wodie story. Murda definitely feels like Teak deserves better than that, and he's gonna have, I guess, his gang try to, give him the proper respects of his passing. And if that wasn't heavy enough for you, the next storyline was just as heavy. The Mercedes with her daughter Tarricka. I thought that was also very heavy. This episode was very heavy from start to finish, man. Goodness gracious. We definitely saw, we saw writing on the wall clearly once Mercedes passed the TCBY. That whole journey about, we're going to Jackson to at least get a consultation and then see what you want to do. Yeah, man, and just heavy all around. Tarricka was on the fence about what she wanted to do about the baby all the way up until the last, final minutes of the episode or last, 1/3 of the episode or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I know that has to be a heavy experience for any teenage girl going through that. So I really felt like that was just as heavy, and even heavier for the parents who have to, be there for their teenager. We see throughout that journey that it seems like Mercedes definitely it was a rocky or like a roller coaster type of relationship between them that whole episode, between Tarricka getting smart in the mouth here and there, saying like she's going to be a better mom than what Mercedes was to her. Not going to, be a better mom than what Patrice was to Mercedes. And you can't blame her, man. Your biological mom has barely been around, given her circumstances. It's I feel like it was one of those things to where, even though at age 30, it's like Mercedes still has like this fear of fully being a mom. I mean, like what was it? Like we're on like the later half of the second season, and Tarricka is just now, spending, consecutive nights at Mercedes' home. So it's not like she's been the best example of a mom. Throughout the episode, I thought it was also pretty dope or very chilling, actually, where you see like flashbacks of how Patrice treated Mercedes. And I felt like it was just like this message of how it's scary how history can kind of repeat itself, and how it's very challenging. Excuse me, it's very challenging to kind of break the cycle. And we saw the flashback of Patrice beating on Mercedes, for example. We see how Mercedes at times would see Patrice in the mirror, and I took it as maybe Mercedes sees herself slowly becoming her mom, which I'm sure is a fear of Mercedes. So man, that whole thing was very heavy. And we see that Tarricka decides to not have the baby. She decides to go through with the abortion, and that's another thing that that has to be, kind of intense for a teenager as well. Like, just like you see like this angry mob of, pro-life people, with signs and yelling in your face, like, turn around. It's a sin what you about to do. Like that has to be intense for a little girl, man. And, it even gave me chills when Mercedes is trying to hold, Tarricka's hand as they walk through this mob, and Tarricka even pulls her hand away just because they've been having this up and down relationship from Chuckalisa all the way to Jackson. So that was intense, man, very intense. And then briefly, like the storyline wasn't as long as the others, but I felt like it was just as intense. We definitely see the dynamic between Derrick and Keyshawn. Keyshawn is putting a mask on so she can cover her bruises more. And I did think, no matter what you think of Autumn, I know she's trying to sell the paint. I know she hasn't really been the hero that she was from the season finale of season 1. But you got to give a kudos for still trying to help Keyshawn out. Like I've said in previous videos that I really felt like Keyshawn may die because she, just like when she was a teenager, she felt she didn't have a support group with her family. And even as a grown woman, I felt like, her actions at murder night kind of severed ties from her people at the Pink. So I felt like she didn't have a support group, therefore she may die. And to see to see Autumn reach back twice now. 3 times if you count the previous episode, but twice now in this episode. She goes to the grocery store, runs into Keyshawn at the grocery store, and was giving her some advice and was like, asking about why she didn't use the gun, this and the third. And was letting her know, hey man, I'm here for you, this and the third. I'm paraphrasing of course, but pretty much letting her know I'm here for you, man. This is not a good situation for you. And then we see at the end, Autumn makes yet a second attempt. She actually goes in the belly of the beast. She goes to Derrick and Keyshawn's house. She disguises what we find out to be a cell phone in like a little gift bag. And she says she just wanted to make a surprise visit to drop it off to the baby Regal. And once they're in the room together, man, listen, man, that damn fairy tale that she told, that was chilling, man. That was so chilling. I had to rewind it to see it again. Just to paraphrase, she's giving that story about once upon a time, this girl, was struggling in the storm, and then the baby came through and everything was all good. A hunter came along, and if you saw, I don't want to butcher it, but if you saw that scene, that was very, very, that sent chills. And then, you got Keyshawn, borderline clueless, like, yo, what you talking about? And that's when we find out about the phone, and she's like, look, you got to call me, but long story short, even though I butchered the fairy tale, what I did take from it, just to interpret, it was almost like, you may, if you keep this up, you may survive this domestic abuse storm, but your children may not. So you need to, take this lifeline and get up out of there. And so I'm on the fence now, man. Like I do think is huge kudos for Autumn to, reach out with an olive branch. I'm counting at least a total of 3 times now. You gave, she gave Keyshawn the gun to use, which she did not use at the very last minute. Ran into her at the supermarket to, let her know that she's there for her again. And then now a 3rd time, giving her like a burner cell phone and tell her, look, my name is labeled under Haley Cole, I think. Haley Cottrell, if I'm, they're like, Haley. call me and, you know, we got to get you out of this situation. So lifelines have been given to Keyshawn, but I'm on the fence because it's like, you're getting these lifelines, but you ain't doing any actions to save yourself or your children. So that's why I'm still afraid that maybe Keyshawn might die as a result of ignoring these lifelines that people are giving her, or ignoring these lifelines that Autumn is giving her. And I feel like if she keeps dragging her feet, it may be a fatal mistake for Keyshawn. But hopefully I'm wrong. We'll see. Let me know what your predictions are. Let me know what your thoughts are. Nevertheless, folks, these are just my opinion. Peace.